as you can tell, we are all in great spirits, including John, who will be roaring back onto the screen in just a second. And here he comes to join the tail of the field. What a great show we have in
Yellow
store.
Yellow flag. There's a caution on the track. John,
John, are you okay? Did you fall?
Yeah, I hurt my knee again.
Oh, geez. There you have it, folks. John's bowling season has come to an end.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode 10 of season 2. Thank you so much for joining us as we're all gearing up, ready for this week. It's a great week. Why do you ask if it's a great week? It's because we finally, after a brutal winter and awful spring, we are set to go green flag racing for 2023. And we're so excited to give you the lowdown. We have the favorite cast of characters and hooligans ready to deliver the good news of racing with John, Becca, myself, Mason, and Jessup Pelkey, also known as Chris Collinsworth, and recently graduated master's student. Congratulations, Jessup, on that title. We want to thank our presenting sponsor in 2023. Also, a happy golden birthday to Tyler Hall, IMCA modified driver out of Fertile, Minnesota. He, along with Clear Arc Industries, developed the hitch harness product. If you haven't heard of this, it's a really great item for truck owners especially, and it specializes in a couple of different challenges that you may face as a truck owner. The first and probably the most important aspect is safety. It's safe because we want the receiver hitches to be stored safely in the back of your truck bed, so it's not rolling loosely around in the back of the truck or even flying out during an accident or driving on a rough road. So safety is the first main aspect. Second aspect is efficiency. Because with truck owners, there's a lot of quick projects that you may want to do a quick switch out. You don't have to go dig back in the truck to try to find where that loose receiver hitch is. And so nice to stored in the back of the truck, just inside the truck lid, so you have easy access. You can move on to the next product. So
easy access.
Easy access, that is true. If you go over to hitchharness.com, there's many different styles and many different colors to choose from. So if you have more than one, you can feel free to select whatever fits your needs. And also, as the race season gets going, for the race car drivers out there, if you want a shop upgrade, they have chassis dollies available as well. So keep in tabs with the website. Go like the Facebook page because they do a lot of promotions throughout the summer and throughout the year. And so thank you, Tyler Hall, and happy birthday. Thanks for supporting us on the Track Packers podcast. And now to the crew. So a little bit of a lineup change from last week because we only had one caution or one committal of the cautions. And so the lineup has changed to now John being on the pole with Jessup to the outside, and then myself, Mason, and Becca rounding out the lineup for episode 10. And so checking in with Mr. John Breckel. How are you doing this episode?
Oh, I'm doing great, Mason. So I know we're going to be doing our little report here later on in the episode about some racing action that happened around North Dakota or around the surrounding areas here in just a few minutes. But it was nice to be back at the racetrack again yesterday, to go through and start getting kind of some of those racing vibes over there. And I'm ready for this weekend. I'm ready to get us started for the 2023 season.
There you go. That's always great,
Mason.
Well, yep.
Plus, just got back from Reno. So bowled our 2023 Bowling Nationals. Had a very nice Nationals again, with our whole entire team down there. And yeah, so it was a great time last week. It flew by. Ready back to the work week this week, though.
Time goes by fast. And yeah, the bowling season was really quick for you because you had a little bit of an abbreviated time with the injury and such.
I did. Especially 6 weeks off with the knee injury. It wasn't fun, but at least it went quick.
Yep. So congratulations on a great season. Still was fun to follow your bowling adventures throughout the winter and spring months. Mr. Jessup, outside pole sitter, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Mason. Really can't complain. It was a great weekend all around. got to check off a pretty big milestone in my educational experience, a career, life, whatever you want to call it. But glad to put that away and ready to get going on the racing season, and just happy to be here.
There you go. Yeah, I'm sure that was a big burden that's now lifted pretty much, besides like a couple loose ends to tie up, I'm sure.
Yeah, we got one pretty entertaining loose end. We just got to do a presentation, which oddly enough, it's a PowerPoint with my 30+ page paper, and PowerPoints and presenting PowerPoints are a strange strength of mine, and I can kick some serious butt with those. So I'm feeling pretty confident going into this final little tidying up of work.
There you go. Nice that it's finishing up just at the start of racing season, so you can focus on that now.
Yeah, it's really nice. And compared to some of the other students in my field that are finishing this summer, I'm feeling a lot more confident than maybe a couple of the others who may or may not be a little behind the schedule.
There you go. Well, kudos to you again for finishing it off before the summer months, especially. Becca, how are you doing this week?
I'm good. I'm super excited because racing is literally just a few days away, and we'll be back at the track. Actually, Dakota Speedway was supposed to race this past weekend, but a lot of factors that went into that decision to cancel. I think it was the right decision to cancel, but selfishly, I wasn't going to be there anyways because we were off celebrating Jessup and his major milestone, educational achievement. So wasn't there. So we also missed Test and Tune this past weekend. So it was kind of strange to miss out on that because we typically go every year, and it's really weird to get Snapchats, to see Snapchats and everyone at the track, all the cars on the track. So it's really weird to not be at the track for the first really big event of the season. So because of that, I am like overly anxious to get to the track this weekend and kick off the 2023 racing season.
There you go. I'm in the same boat too, because outside the time we were in Florida, besides driving past the racetrack, I haven't really been seeing cars on the track for action, whether it's test and tunes or racing itself. And so I'm excited to kind of took this week to kind of catch up on many highlight videos that I'm behind on, and then did some visited a lot of race shops this weekend, which I'll be telling about that in the Track Pack report in just a few moments. But before we do that, we will drop the green flag and officially start episode 10. Can you believe it? Episode 10 already is season 2. Man, these fly by fast. We'll get right into who or what are we repping. We'll start with the pole sitter once again with John Breckel. Who or what are you repping?
Oh my goodness, we're going down memory lane again. So, okay, you guys are all going to start laughing. I'm continuing my theme of Stampede t-shirts. So I actually went back a little bit farther though than what I was at last time, because last time I think I did 2005. So now I went back to 2003. So this is actually the 2003 Stock Car Stampede t-shirt from the Jamestown Speedway. As you guys can tell, it is the 32nd annual Stock Car Stampede. So that year back in 2002, they had some great car counts. That was actually one of the years that was one of the highest car counts until 2004 came around. They broke the 280 car mark. So had a really good year of racing, and had some really good future events. Back then there was 5 classes as part of the Stock Car Stampede, and you had your bombers, your street stocks, your WISSOTA super stocks, your WISSOTA mods, and also your WISSOTA late models that were on the shirt. And then if you want to add your Roadhogs into that mix, they were also part of the Stampede back then as well. So a really good year for the Stock Car Stampede. But yes, this is the 2003 shirt that has the 2002 winners and more on the back.
Curious, because obviously I'm not as versed in Jamestown Speedway history as you were. What were the regular car classes heading into that Stampede?
Yeah, so regular car classes back then were bombers or / pure stocks, WISSOTA street stocks, WISSOTA mods, and Roadhogs. Those used to be the 4 regular classes that were at the Jamestown Speedway back there in 2003 timeframe. And then in 2004 was the same. And then in 2005, the addition of the Midwest Modifieds happened to the weekly show class for Jamestown Speedway, until the first change came around in 2006 16 when they went full IMCA modified.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to see the progression of like what the main classes were 10, 15, 20 years ago to now, which on average, I'd say most tracks have more classes. And so it's interesting to see that timeline. Cool. Awesome. I like that you're continuing the theme of Stampede shirts because I'm sure you have a lot of them.
Oh, my stash of Stampede shirts is quite large these days.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. That's awesome, though. Cool. Awesome shirt. Nice trip down memory lane there. Jessup, what are you repping?
Well, I'm going to continue my theme of just randomness. And this week I am rocking a Jeremy North t-shirt, super stock driver out of Huron, South Dakota. It was on the top of my pile. So I was pretty excited to see a new shirt. It was pretty fun.
I couldn't tell you what year that scheme was either. I'm not.
John, can you do it? John?
Oh, I have to go back through my archives, but I will let you know.
Okay, so as John cheats and figures out the answer, I'll go next. I was visiting a whole bunch of race shops this weekend. One of them that I visited was the Ranke shop down in Lisbon, and good old Nate Ranke supplied me with a fresh new, I don't know if these are brand new sweatshirts, but it's got a relatively new Nate Ranke number 71 Midwest mod on it. And then the back, it's a very thick sweatshirt, so it's nice and warm. So Becca, this is kind of like one of your hoodies that you probably would wear to the track often. So I believe he's got a big stash of these in his ambulance that he now totes the track with his car. And so it was cool to kind of watch his car get lettered this weekend. And he's got a couple cars. And so he'll probably be bouncing between the two cars throughout the season, depending on how the tracks are doing and what setup he likes. And so thank you, Nate, for supplying me with a fresh new sweatshirt for these cooler nights, especially at the start of the season.
Now, Mason, is it different classes or same class with just two cars?
Same class.
Okay.
Yep. Same class, just two cars. Becca, what are you repping?
I am repping the 30th anniversary edition of Kelly SD. So Kelly. And then it's a little windy this weekend here in North Dakota, and it was the kind of wind that just kind of like chilled you to the bone. So definitely still hoodie season around here, and but I am excited. The weather is definitely going to warm up, and it's going to be a beautiful weekend for racing, not only here in North Dakota, but hopefully in the upper Midwest. So definitely going to be a great weekend for racing, but probably won't be wearing a hoodie this weekend. So.
Well, we'll see. It kind of cools down quick, especially at the start of the year. So.
What do you mean you wouldn't be wearing a hoodie this weekend? You wear a hoodie when it's 95 degrees outside. It's only supposed to be 70. So I'm pretty sure you're going to be in a hoodie.
The real question
Probably
is
a beanie as well.
Yes, John, the beanie. If she didn't have a beanie and it's not 100 degrees, then
I mean, if it's even 100 degrees, sometimes she's in a beanie.
This is also true.
Planning on wearing a beanie tonight because I was hoping we would film on Tuesday when I'm getting my hair done. So hence a beanie tonight. But
Mason, it's very useful that Becca gets her hair done.
I might
we're
want
doing a
to show off
podcast.
my blondness on opening nights or opening weekends. So probably won't be wearing a beanie unless it's super windy and I don't want to ruin my hair, and then I might wear a beanie. We'll see.
Okay,
if
Becca,
it's
you don't have
anything
to hide
like
your
this
blonde
weekend, this weekend was brutal for wind.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And it's okay, Becca. You don't have to hide your blondness because you pretty much are that way all the time. So I mean, it doesn't make a difference.
I do have a quick question on that Kelly SD shirt. So I'm going to kind of directed at Jessup. So there's a big Como sponsor on the side of that car. Is that the same sponsor, I assume, as the old Como series back in the day?
Yes.
Okay. What does Como specialize in? Is it like
Well, Como is no longer a thing because it was Como oil and propane. And then it got bought out right about the time, a little after the mod series happened. But don't quote me on that. I haven't truly checked, but I do believe it's moved on. Let me double check here.
Okay.
Como oil and propane.
Yeah, I just noticed the Como on the side, and I'm just like, it's got to be a direct correlation to that series, which I know you really loved following that.
Well, I guess it's still going, but
Yeah, interesting.
I have to believe the main person sold out on it because it's now. Oh, okay. So it got sold out. It's a Thompson Gas company. So it's one of the little satellite companies of a umbrella company. But for the most part, for the Midwest or specifically Iron Range, North Shore, Duluth Superior area, that area, Como Oil was a really big distributor of oil and
Okay, interesting.
propane accessories.
There you go. Sweet. Awesome. Cool gear, guys. Awesome to take trips down memory lane and see what all we can scrounge up for our random piles of shirts, I guess, if you want to call it that for some people in here.
I have a tote.
Oh, tote. My bad. Sorry.
Tote with piles inside of the tote.
Yes. So if drivers or anyone out there has a specific shirt you want us to rep, we're more than willing to rep it. Just let us know, or we can, or just try to hook us up with some gear. We're more than happy to show it off to the crowd out in the, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, or just trying to explain it out to the various podcast listeners. And so always happy to support the racing community with shirts and gear. So we have another Track Packer report. And so, last week, we recorded this just before I went up to Minot to go to the Magic City Car and Trade Show. And so you guys got to experience the Kirkwood Mall show. And I got to check out the car show associated with the NOAC Speedway for just a little bit. And very good turnout of cars. We had about 30 cars, dirt racing cars that showed up. It was full of classic cars and snowmobiles as well. But a really good mix of cars from all the regular classes up at NOAC Speedway, which consist of your IMCA mods, hobby stocks, stock cars, sport mods, and sport compacts. And we even had a few slingshots and a legend, or actually a couple legends there, along with Wingless Renegades. So very great mix of cars. It was really cool to see the brand new schemes and a couple new drivers in some of the classes that we're probably going to highlight here later on in the show. But just a great opportunity to really get people excited for racing. Up in Minot and kind of the western part of the state, they're really fortunate that the weather's been a lot drier. So they've been able to kind of get things going as far as track prep. They've had a couple of test and tunes out west. And so basically just waiting on the last couple of, green lights to be able to go racing, hopefully in the next week or two. But yeah, I really got to take a look at the schemes up close. We highlighted a couple of them beforehand. I know Isaac Sandro was one that Becca highlighted. He won best appearing mod there. And so, yeah, just a lot of great paint schemes there to check out. And so we'll be sharing a few of our favorite schemes from the last week or so. But that was what I took away from the car show, was just a nice variety of cars from every single class, because, sometimes we get a lot from one class and maybe not some from a couple others, but be evenly spread across the board on representation for the car classes. Moving on to you guys, or mainly John, because he got to experience test and tune at Dakota Speedway. How was that?
Oh, it was kind of it was fun. So we had, I would say in Mandan, I would say right around 70 to 80-ish for car count range, somewhere in that range, because drivers, so we started at 5 and we had it till 10, and some of the drivers showed up, early, took advantage of the whole entire practice session. Some of them showed up for just a couple hours and then left, and then some showed up a little bit later and just took advantage of it as well. So, but no, we had a pretty good mix of cars, a lot of legends. There was a good field of legends there as well. So they had quite a few legends. I think we're gonna have a healthy car count with the legend field again this year, just by seeing how much we're at the car show, and then also just seeing some of the new drivers that are around the area as well that are joining that class. And then it's kind of neat because some of the drivers that were veterans in the legends class have moved up. So Drew Papke had his sport mod out there, which he's going to this year. So he was running that for test and tune. Alex Kukowski was there but did not have a car with him. So it sounds like he's going to be mainly focusing on the stock car this year. Probably still going to be in legends here or there a little bit. But I did hear that his car was sold. So that was another thing too from his car from last year. So that's kind of interesting to see. But then you looked at it, and a lot of drivers, and we had several stock car drivers there. We had a really good field of street stock drivers there so far as well. IMCA modifieds were pretty healthy car count. Even had 4 late models that were there for test and tune. So that was pretty neat to see. Bring late models back to Dakota Speedway. So we had some of them there as well. And then a pretty good field of hobby stock drivers. So some drivers had brand new cars, changed classes. Looks like Derek Appert has a brand new E85 hobby stock as well. Both cars were on the track. They were practicing both cars, but it looks like he's got a new car lined up and ready to go for this year. Obviously, Jeremy Engelhardt has got the brand new hobby stock ready to go too. He was testing that out a little bit yesterday to get comfortable with that. Plus, he had his Wissota Street stock back out there too. Probably the biggest surprise that I saw, and I know we all talked about it together, was it looks like Kelly Hoggle has gone back down to the streets. So looks like he is back in the Wissota Street Stock division, as he had the 271 Wissota Street Stock there at Test and Tune last night too. And Kelly is a former track champion in the Wissota Street Stocks back at the Dakota Speedway. So it'd be kind of neat to see if Kelly comes over weekly or if he's just going to come over here or there as part of the season. But yeah, so kind of neat to see several drivers in different divisions and in different classes.
There you go. Yeah, it's a good mix too. I like that we have a good mix of drivers that we haven't seen as of yet to like reveal their cars or schemes, and there's still a pile that are regulars that still haven't made it out to the track yet. So it's going to be a great mix of drivers all coming together for the season opener coming up this next weekend. Well, awesome, John. Really great to see that there was a great turnout at Dakota Speedway's Test and Tune. And so I almost forgot too that Jessup got to attend a car show last weekend. Tell us about what you got to see.
Well, Mason, I got to partake in the Home of Economy car show up in Grand Forks, just out of happen chance as I was up there. And, it was a good time. I was really impressed with how it was laid out, that it was free, and the amount of things that they had going on. So, like, you walk in, they had Traegers making food out in front so you can smell all like the not charcoal, but the barbecuing going on. And then they had an ice racing car out there with its studded wheels. So that was pretty cool. So that was like one of the many different racing groups that were being promoted. Then you walk in, and then they have like all the different radio stations plastered up on the doors that are there. And you walked in, and then there were a ton of people. And I think it's funny because just the quality of cars that turned out, because they had Wissota late models, 410 NOSA sprint cars, and street stocks that were there. And the funny part about all it was, there were multiples for each class. It wasn't as if their drivers were hiding their cars, unlike some other racetrack car shows. So that was pretty cool to see. And, it was really cool. You could go up. They were letting kids, with the driver's permission, of course, and the family's permission, to go up into the car, sit in there, and get a photo, look around in the inside. That was pretty cool, I thought. Other things that they had like distributor tables. There was like some health table with like protein bars and energy drink thing. That was pretty good. I actually ended up buying something from them. Then they were giving out free pulled pork with I think it's bird dog or black lab barbecue sauce, and I ended up buying some of that too. And then they had Belgian waffles, and I bought a pack of that too. So just about anything that they had out, I was pretty impressed. And of course, after eating a handful of things, I ended up buying them. But they had the local wrestling club was doing a free Goodwill off donation type of food table. That was pretty cool that they had burgers and hot dogs and all that good stuff. And it was really cool, Mason. I mean, they literally brought in just about every different type of racing outfit in the area. They had their ice racing. They had what was it? Oval track ice racing snowmobiles that were represented there. They had their BMX club there. They had their carts. So it was really cool how they brought everybody into it. I think it's really smart, because the number of people, not only is it smart for all those racing clubs to be a part of it and like bringing in the wrestling club, but it's really smart on Home of Economy. They brought in a boatload of people, and just the simple setup that they did, it was only happening for about, I think, maybe 4 hours, 3-4 hours, and it was packed. So that's awesome publicity and display the promotion for all those racing organizations. But it's also really good. It's like equal value in return for home of economy. And like, I'm a great example. I probably wouldn't have bought any of those products, or I would have known about any of those products. Go get some free samples. Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like almost like when we went to the Daytona 500 and got to go through all the vendors there and kind of try out a lot of their stuff and too. So yeah,
Yep.
very similar. I've heard really good things about the home of economy car show the last few years, and would like to make it up there one of these years because yeah, they do a really great job of bringing a lot of different types of cars, a lot of different people together, so you can kind of get exposed to like the different types of racing that's available in the Grand Forks area. It's not just dirt track racing or not just go-karting racing.
Yep.
Sweet. Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Another great car show up in Grand Forks. And so getting all set to go for the season. The last thing on our track pack report was this last weekend, since I didn't really get into any racing or testing tunes. With it being the last free weekend before racing, I was like, I'm going to travel a little bit and kind of go check out some race shops and see what people are up to and see how far people are along on their car building or if they're ready to go to the racetrack, which I found out there's varying levels of progress. Some are all set to go. They're all set to put it in the trailer and just head out to the track. Others just have a bare chassis. It's very, very interesting to see the variation. And so I went over to Jamestown, went to a few of the shops there, got to see a couple of our friends from Jamestown, Andy Cap and Dustin Erickson, wrap up Nate Ranke's cars. And it's quite a process to wrap a car. I don't know if you've ever seen like a race car get wrapped before, but it's not a quick job. It takes some time to really perfect it and get everything cut just the right way. And so that was interesting to watch. I mean, I've been hanging out in Mike Speaker's business too. A lot of cars coming in and out of that shop and a lot of full body wraps, and it takes a lot of time. So kudos to all the graphic designers out there that put a lot of work into those and put a lot of work into installing all that stuff, because that's not easy to do. And I know some drivers, like Kyle Anderson was another guy I visited. He was doing it himself with his dad, and so they were kind of doing it just a two-man job. And so his car's looking pretty cool too. So excited to see when it hits out the track. He might be over in Mandan this upcoming weekend too. Went over to Lisbon as well, visited the Rankies like I said earlier. Regan's getting ready to start his legend racing career, so that's awesome to see. There's still a little bit of time out before they get our race track ready. Drove by the track in Lisbon, and it's they need a couple weeks. It's very, very wet down there, and so it's unfortunate because like there's so much overland flooding down into Lisbon, and even just outside of Jamestown, there's a lot of overland flooding, and so there's still going to be a couple weeks before the tracks down there are ready to go. But good to catch up with them. Good to catch up with the Carters as well. Hunter's got a brand new car. Johnny also has a brand new car that's just a bare chassis, so he's got a ways to go, unfortunately. So, but yeah, that was my Saturday, and then Sunday I kind of ventured around to race shops here in town and around the Fargo area. Found out that Harwood, North Dakota, for those of you that don't know, there's a lot of racers there that live on the same street. So got to visit with the Gressets today, Cole, Mike. There's also Casey Stremick, Jamie Schultz, and Josh Johnson that live on that same street. And so got to visit with several of them and see what they're up to. Mike has actually got two late models. One that he's going to mainly run for the bulk of part of the year, and maybe the other one comes out in, say, September for the specials. And so very cool to kind of catch up with them too. So definitely a weekend that I really enjoyed, kind of seeing like the real hard work and grind that goes into building and getting these race cars prepared, because there's a lot of work that goes into making these cars look sharp. And then like the first night or two, they get all dirty and they might get beat up. So it's interesting to see that, but it's a lot of work. So hats off to all the pit crews, the drivers, the race teams that put so much blood, sweat, and tears to making their cars look nice and getting them out to the track, because it's not easy to do. And I know, Becca, you've done a lot of interviews in the Bismarck-Mandan area, kind of seeing that same type of progress. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the same things, just how much work goes into it.
Yeah, it's hours and hours and hours of just drivers just tearing down the cars and checking all the parts and pieces and then putting the stuff back together, and then it's time for your wrap job. So, and some of them even paint their cars still, so that's even more meticulous because of, if it's a gradient or hard lines, sharp lines, that sort of stuff. So a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, and some drivers manage their time better than others because yeah, there's a lot of cars that are not finished, and we some depending where you live and what part of the state, we go racing this weekend. So time is running out. So if you're one of those drivers that is, still on jack stands, you better get cracking because it's going to be race day before you know it.
Yep. Yeah, and so we're going to actually get into where is all racing today, or this week, I should say, in the state of North Dakota and the surrounding region. So, Mr. Dakota Dirt, what's the schedule looking like for the opening weekend of racing?
Well, Mason,
Oh my gosh, you have to
as
go
of
through Dakota
today-
Dirt though.
yes,
Jessup, I
actually
mean, you cannot
updated.
forget about what Dakota Dirt does for racing community because racing news, results, recaps, articles, and much more. So again, if you want your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news, results, and much more, you have to check out Dakota Dirt. Again, they are on social media platforms. They are also on the website at dakotadirt.org. They are your one-stop shop for everything North Dakota racing news, results, and schedules. And Jessup, with that, continue on.
Thank you, John. Anyways, Mason, as we were saying, there was racing action today. Actually, test and tune action out at the Nodak Speedway. It was a busy weekend as 3 tracks happened to be all Western tracks this weekend, as with Williston Basin and the Dakota Speedway got their seasons kind of kicked off yesterday with their test and tunes. Both looked like they had good turnouts for both of them. And then today up at the Nodak Speedway, the newly reshaped, new dirted Nodak Speedway, they had their test and tune and looked like they had a pretty good turnout there as well. Looking for test and tunes next week, it's looking like, let's see if I have all these updated. May 6th looks to be Devil's Lake if everything goes, fingers crossed, their way. Then the week after, it's going to be hopefully Southwest Speedway the 13th. And now, what we all came here for, kicking the race season off, May 5th and 6th, the Dakota Speedway is looking for their 3rd and final attempt to hit the Mandan Meltdown. There's been water melting down, emotions melting down, but dang it, we're going to melt this track down next week. The 6th also looks to be an opener for the Estevan Motor Speedway. Our friends north of the border look to kick off a very promising season. They will be returning to the Dakota Classic Modified Tour this year. So it will be interesting to see who ventures north to see if they still have what it takes to tame the track north of the border. Meanwhile, the Nodak Speedway looks to kick off their season on Sunday, the 7th. So that'll be a good show as well. All things pointing right now, the weather looks to be pretty good for all those dates. And that's what next week's looking like. Here on out after, though, it's going to be the 12th to Dakota Speedway, Red River, and hopefully River City's they get to kick their seasons off as well. But those 3 will kick it off. Well, continue on the 12th, the 13th. Devil's Lake is hoping to get some racing in, along with the Williston Basin. And the Nodak Speedway will continue on the 14th. That's what it's looking like. In Cheyenne, the east side right now just needs to dry up, and hopefully they can get their seasons going. But that's what we got in store for racing action locally. I know Wissota just kicked off this past weekend out in, I think, Wyoming and Montana.
Yeah, mainly Wyoming. I think Big Sky had a car show. I don't think they raced, but yeah, I know Sheridan's raced a couple nights.
Didn't Big Sky have a test and tune today?
They probably did. I think you may be right on that.
I thought they had a test and tune them. But hey, just a fun fact about Big Sky. They do a wonderful job with their social media work. They're always building their drivers up, building their workers up, always saying pretty good stuff about them and shining a positive light on the sport in their area. So that's kind of fun to watch what they're doing out there.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone predicted for the first, basically with Wissota races of the season, that it'd be that far out west that they get started. So but kudos to them that they're able to get some racing in and have Casper, I think, opened last week, and then they got to race one more time this week. And so, so hopefully racing starts in our neck of the woods starting this next week in North Dakota. Minnesota's also got a few tracks slated to open this upcoming week, starting with Wednesday and Thursday. Are going to be a couple tests and tunes. Wednesday, Montevideo Fiesta City Speedway's got a test and tune going, and the I-94 EMR Speedway has a test and tune on Thursday. Now, I-94's got a doubleheader on Friday and Saturday, and also Fiesta is going to open up on the Friday the 5th. On the 6th, as of right now, North Central Speedway and Ogilvie are slated to open, and then Sunday, May 7th, the Granite City Motor Park is slated to open. So a good amount of racetracks starting to open their doors, and hopefully the weather cooperates. We have really good forecasts, like we've said earlier, that the weather's going to cooperate. It's kind of just making sure all those loose ends are tied up, all the things have been checked, and making sure we're all set to go to drop the green flag in the upper Midwest. And so exciting stuff for sure. So what's the biggest headline heading into 2023 now that we've kind of got all geared up for racing slated to start? What is a big headline that's on your mind for 2023? We kind of talked a little bit about this a few weeks back, but anything changed since then?
I think
Well,
as we see more and more paint schemes, I don't think I remember a year where there have been so many drivers switching classes, whether that's moving up to like a bigger different class or moving down, whichever way you want to put it. I don't think I've ever seen a year where I've seen so many drivers switching car classes, and it's super, super exciting. I'm also super excited because I want to see how the return of WISSOTA A mods to North Dakota is going to affect the modified racing world. There's quite a few drivers who are switching to WISSOTA A mods, or there are drivers. It's just super exciting to see how the modified landscape is changing, and I think it's going to be a change for the good. And I'm super excited. I'm really bummed that Lisbon is struggling with some flooding right now, because they would have kicked off their season this Thursday. And it's a shame, because I really want to see how A-mod racing coming. So Lisbon's switching to Thursday, so that's a huge thing in itself. And I'm excited to see how that works out for them. But I also want to see how that. I'm super curious to see how WISSOTA A mods are just going to affect the modified racing scene. And I think the first race at Lisbon this year would have been a huge key to that. But unfortunately, they canceled, and hopefully that it dries up out east, and it'll be super interesting to see how modified racing just kind of shakes up a little bit.
Yeah, that's definitely a couple of things I was watching too. And I think we'll be touching on the modifieds specifically, because there's a lot of new drivers in both WISSOTA mods and IMCA modifieds in the area. Definitely something to keep an eye on for 2023. John or Jessup, do you have something that sticks out to you as a big headline?
I would say the modified resurgence is kind of a refreshing, it snuck up on us. We didn't really hear a lot of this going into the winter, and all of a sudden you start seeing a bunch of names jumping around in either to IMCA mods, WISSOTA A mods, or B mods, and then sport mods. So it's going to be interesting to see how everyone does. I think for the West, there's going to be a really, really strong mod contention, I think, this year. I don't think Nodak or Williston's the normal front runners are safe this year. I think you're going to see some really talented new faces and returning faces, such as Brady Biella. I think you're going to see them really challenging the front runners this year. Not saying that Travis Hagan or Wayne Johnson can't defend themselves, but you see the names of like Eric Laudenschlager jumping up, Brady Biella coming back for another year in the modifieds. And then you start looking around at the drivers who are also going up there. Robert Helbus apparently has a rumored ride for this year. So that's going to be really exciting to see him. Jason Walla's got a new car from we heard. And then I can't even, I shouldn't have left out Marcus Tomlinson. He's going to be defending his track championship this year up in Nodak, so we can't undermine him. He's going to be tough. So if you start looking at that, and then we can talk about our stock car like the top gun for the West for stock cars. Dalton Flory's making the move to an IMCA modified. So if you start counting those off, you got about 7 or 8 drivers any given night that are going to be competing for that top spot. So I think you're going to see a lot of hard fought battles in the Northwest part. And then even if Dakota Speedway is going to still be strong, you're going to see some new faces coming down there. So it's really exciting to see what's happening for the IMCA mod. And then I know I'm not very familiar with out east drivers, but I know we were discussing before the show, there's some new names going over in the eastern side of the state to the IMCA mods. So that's going to be pretty exciting there. And then this whole Wasota mod thing with Cheyenne, what's going to happen there? There's a lot of interesting names that are going to be putting the big motors in and definitely going to be hitting the track hard this year. So there's a lot of excitement that you can really look forward to with mod classes this year. So that's
Yeah,
one.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's one giant storyline coming into this year. And my favorite thing about racing are the little storylines that you have going into each night. And there's going to be a ton. And I know John's got a better idea of what's going on in the central part of the state than I do. So I'll let him talk about that. But one other one that I find kind of fascinating is the slowly creeping transition to drivers going to Wasota late models out in the western part of the state. So, John, I'll let you talk about that a little more, but I think that's a really good and promising sign for the future. So, those are my big takeaways for the 2023 season going into it. I know there's a lot more, not to diminish any other class, but I mean, the other one we could really talk about is the resurgence of the sport compacts up in Nodak. So that's going to be really fun to see too. So with that, I'm just going to stop talking. There's a lot of storylines we can go over, but that's one of the biggest ones I see coming in to this year.
Awesome. Yeah. A lot of great storylines, but a lot of great headlines there, Jessup. Go ahead, John. What do you got?
Yeah, so Jesper kind of touched, kind of segued me into this point, but mine is definitely the kind of resurgence of Wasota late models. We saw it happen here, kind of a couple years ago. We started seeing car count started increasing again. There was a lot of brand new drivers. River cities had an increase in their car count, and I feel like this year that's just going to continue. And the reason why is because there's a lot of drivers that in the eastern part of the state, including the western part of the state, that are moving into late models, have had that opportunity to move up into a late model and have taken that opportunity to go into a late model. So that'll be kind of exciting to see, how that class develops even further this year. And we have seen it over in Minnesota too. They have increased a lot within the Wasota late model realm. A lot of drivers have went from the limited late model class up to Wasota late models, or vice versa, with maybe even other classes like Wasota Midwest mod drivers going to late models. Wasota, modified drivers that have now got transitioned into late models. So that'll be really interesting to see on how that class grows. And the competition now is the quality of the fields have even gotten deeper than what they were. I mean, you had a lot of veterans in that class already that are very strong to run with each week. And now you've got some of the top tier drivers in other classes. For instance, Tyler Peterson had made an announcement on Facebook that he now has a late model. And that he kind of dabbled with a little bit last year, when he subbed within Donnie Schatz's car last year for the late models a little bit. But now he is now fully into a late model, and will be running his modded late model on and off this year. So that will be very interesting to see on how that physically starts and how that goes through, and kind of, wants to develop and further expand that. So I think it'll be a good change. I think it'll also be quite interesting. And yeah, so I think it'll be something that we'll watch here within the future. of 2023 as it keeps going on. The other thing too that I've seen this year, maybe from kind of an interest standpoint or more than anything else, is I have seen a lot of tracks either increase payouts this year or increase prize funds this year. So I think there's been a little bit of resurgence going back to, we do have some series that travel around the states or throughout WSOTA country or even IMCA country. And some of these tracks are trying to make their weekly shows mean more again, which means let's make a track championship mean more again. Let's make sure that instead of just giving out trophies, that hey, we're actually giving extra prize money if you support us each week, and kind of go through and do a lot of that. So that's been something that we've seen. I know there's been a couple tracks around our area that have announced that. First of all, obviously Nodak has announced they've increased payouts, but now you even got the Granite City. They have also announced over Minnesota that they've increased not only payouts on a weekly basis, but they've also increased their prize funds as well, and even other contingency awards. So I've seen tracks that have starting to do that as well, which are, kind of going to be a little bit interested this year to see how that goes over and how that transitions the weekly racing scene within some of these facilities.
Yep. Yeah, that transitions well into one of my headlines too, is tracks were really doing a lot more to really make their weekly racing program especially cater to the drivers and cater to the fans too. I know Devil's Lake announced a great fan promotion. I believe it's for kids 15 and under getting free with a paying adult. And I think Granite City also announced something similar to kids getting in free if they're under a certain age. And so that's awesome to see that tracks are really going that extra step to make sure that they get the fans to the track and they get to the drivers to the track too. It's really essential to get the core group of fans and core group of drivers to support the racetracks on a weekly basis. And so that's encouraging to see from multiple tracks across the region, including like IMCA Racer Sprint Cars are getting some extra payout from Shots Crossroads down in Fargo. And so that's encouraging to see as well. I think one big headline for me, it goes back to, we've kind of hammered this topic in the spring, is just the change in WSOTA late model national points going to 20 shows. I think that's going to be a really interesting thing to watch, because it's going to really open the doors for so many different late models from several different regions to be able to compete for a national title. So you got your South Dakota crowd, obviously, that's got a couple of the top guys like Becker and Skorcheski last year. But now you got all like the NRA guys from up in our neck of the woods, North Dakota, like northern Minnesota. You might include some of the Wisconsin guys that may be able to put together 20 to 25 shows and put together a title run. And so it's going to be interesting to see who all comes together towards the end of August, early September, and who's really competing for that national title, because I think that points balance can be pretty tight, because we mentioned with the new amount of late model drivers, there's probably going to be some surprises that are going to steal a few wins unexpectedly. And so it's going to really kind of like dilute that win count across the entire landscape of WSOTA late models. So I'm really excited to see how that plays out as well.
One thing about that, we bring up the late model 20 night race deal, right, for their points. I'm curious to see how this affects traveling throughout the season. And here's my thought process behind it. If you can get a state that has 3 tracks that can race Friday through Sunday, right? So that's basically going to be based Minnesota and South Dakota for the most part. And I guess if you work it right, you can probably get a good chunk of races in Wisconsin too. But are we going to see these drivers actually leave their state? Because you can definitely get close to, what would you say, John? 30 to 40 races within your own state?
Especially if you have 3 tracks
Yep.
that you can hit on a weekend, because a majority of the schedules for tracks, if you look at across the board from maybe, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin based, your weekly shows are roughly right around between 12 to 16, somewhere in that range, typically on a weekly show basis. So if you think about that and you don't have any rainouts and you just have, your regular weeks going on, you might be able to hit that 20 race limit, maybe even somewhere throughout the middle of the season. And then you're just going to be dropping shows. So some of these drivers, it'll be interesting to see on how they go towards the championship run, if they make a championship run. So the other thing too that I think is interesting, Mason, you brought it up from the late model side, is the rookie class. I think the rookie class this year in late models is going to be very interesting to see that from the national level. too on who's going to be your WISSOTA national rookie within the WISSOTA late model division. I think it's going to be really interesting to see on who takes home that title, because there's going to be quite a few rookies within the WISSOTA late models this year that that with only 20 shows, it's going to be very interesting to see on how that rookie battle hits as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree. It's going to be really fun to watch, and I think we'll do like some predictions for like WISSOTA national points. I think once we see like the first week or two who is all kind of, because right now it's like Becca said, there's been a lot of changeover within the classes, and it's kind of hard to tell who's going to be racing in what class to start the year. And so, and like I mentioned, people are way far behind in getting their cars ready, so some may not even come out until the end of May.
Well,
some
and that's the thing
drivers-
too, who has new cars that we don't even know about yet. So so that's the other thing too, that you know, maybe a driver will start in, and we've seen this multiple times, they might start a class, but they might have a brand new car built that they're going to start in that class, you know, upcoming in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, so we'll see what happens there too.
There's also a lot of drivers running multiple classes, like doing double duties. So it's going to be interesting to see how, you know, are they going to take that new car? Is that going to be the primary focus for them, or are they going to still have a good, you know, are they still going to put a lot of attention on the car that they've known for many years, you know? So there's quite a few drivers who are going to have their hands full once the season starts, and then once they get into the settle of things, once, you know, the routine of racing season gets underway, it'll be interesting to see how their focus shifts, if it's going to be primarily on the, you know, the older car that they've raced for a year or years, or is it going to be on the brand new car that they are, you know, still learning to race. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Some awesome things to watch heading into the 2023 season. Really excited to see how it all unfolds. We'll move on into some of the latest and greatest paint schemes we've seen. There's been a butt ton of reveals this last week or two. Let's see. I think Becca's going first for this week on paint scheme reveals. So what are up to 3 that stick out to you?
I only get 3. Oh gosh,
You only get 3.
I feel like my phone has been blowing up.
This
like
is 1.
Yes, I understand. I feel like in our group chat, my phone just blows up all the time because I feel like we were always sending paint schemes throughout the last couple of days. But one of my favorite paint schemes was AJ Demel. He has a beautiful black and it's almost like a chromey or a reflective vinyl. There's that black and gray reflective vinyl, and it's really sharp. It's just, I really like the look of that late model this year. So that was one of my first ones that I really liked within our group chat. I also really liked Tucker Peterson's street stock that he it showed off at the Grand Forks Car Show. I like that blue reflective vinyl at the top with a hint of pink to kind of really just like basically just kind of break it up between the blue, pink, and the white. It's really just really nice. I like how that really came together. They really mesh really well together, those colors. And then I also really liked Avery Anderson's car. So it's primarily a purple with a really nice, if you zoom in on the photo, there's some really nice purple detailing in there. There's some like lighter purples, darker purples, but there's also some, the numbers obviously the red number really pops, as well as the white little pinstripes in there too. So I really, really liked those cars this week in our, we've been messaging a lot lately, but those were some of my favorite paint schemes this week.
3 solid ones. Yep, I like all of those too. Jessup, you got 3 at the ready?
Yes, Mason. I just sent the group another one, so I need someone to address who this is. I might be a little not sure with the name, but the first one I got is Marcus Tomlinson. He's got a very sharp looking car. It's very different for him. It's a little different than what he usually runs. It's very sharp. I think it's going to look good. I can't wait to see it this Friday and Saturday, hopefully. My second one is going to be Cole Searing. His late model is just, I don't know how to describe it. It's clean and it sticks out. So I really like that one.
It looks mean.
It does. There's something
It
about
really
it.
does.
And John, who did I just send you? I can't.
The throwback to Terry Haven.
Yes.
So
It looks
Terry
like the
was a race
driver's
car
Derek
driver that Yeah,
Derek
but Derek
Hansen?
Derek
Hansen is.
Hansen?
I
So
don't
yeah,
know
so
what relation is to him.
so yeah, I'm not exactly sure there either. But Terry was a modified driver over in the Aberdeen area for years. That was number 23 and was always had some type of purple paint scheme. And I saw that scheme too that I just that they put together on Extreme Graphics, and it's really sharp.
Yeah, this thing looks cool. I don't think I've seen a modified look like this before. Um, Mason, you're gonna have to put a picture of it
Yeah,
because
yeah,
my
it's
just
a
They
cool looking
have
car.
they have the throwback scheme in there, and it wasn't purple outline. It used to be pink outline. But if you look in an Extreme
oh
graphic site, you'll be able to find kind of the throwback on
yeah
what it was off
Oh,
of.
wow. That's nice.
yeah, this is pretty cool. So this is a last second jump in here. Derek Hansen.
He wasn't on
Is
your
that
list going in.
is that a Wasota A mod, Mason?
I believe that's an A mod. Just look at
Yes.
the spoiler.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I'm thinking, but not for sure with the name. So I just want to make sure we give the proper credit to where it needs
Jessup
to be.
didn't want a caution.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But those are my three.
Awesome. Good deal. John, you wanted to go last, right?
I wanted to go last.
Okay. So I got three at the ready too. First one I like is Wayne Johnson's modified. Real different scheme from his past few years. It's got a white, gray, and blue, really reflective blue, it looks like, and really, really sharp looking car. Got to see it up close at the car show up at Minot, and man, that thing is pristine. I really like Wayne's scheme this year. Another Midwest mod driver that I like their scheme this year is Maddie Swenson. She recently jumped up from the short trackers over in the I-94 and the Viking Speedway area, but she's racing a Midwest mod, number 52. And really nice looking car, obviously with pink in it. It's a go-to for me, but very sharp, I like the details. That was done by Jacob Kane with Kane Design and Wraps, who's been putting out a really, really awesome set of designs this year. So that's my second one. And my third one is Scott Ward's. Really nice car with a white tin, and then a lot of the sponsors that have their unique colors, and kind of, we were talking beforehand, looks like a bunch of eye candy, a lot of different colors to kind of grab your attention. And so looking forward to seeing that car in person as well. So those are my three for the latest and greatest paint schemes. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so some that I really, really, really liked. First one that came across was a driver that's actually moving back into the Wasota Street Stocks, which is Kelly Hoggles. Kelly Hoggles' scheme looked really, really, really nice to me. Yesterday when I saw it in person as well, it's a beautiful scheme. The one driver that is going to be a threat again for a national title is every single year. He will be again this year in his Wasota Modified, is Shane Skabrowski. His 7A mod is beautiful this year. I love how the orange is just popping on that scheme, and he kind of changed it up from previous years. Shane always has nice cars, but this year's modified for him is just gorgeous. And then the third car that I have seen that actually Mason had just sent over to us a few minutes ago, or a little bit ago before we started podcasting, was Dave Moss's. Dave has a different paint scheme this year, a little bit different for him. Usually always has nice schemes, and it's going to be something that's definitely going to pop on the racetrack. So I really like how he's got the fluorescent yellow incorporated into that scheme this year, and it looks super, super nice. So yeah, so those are kind of my my schemes that I like. So Kelly Hoggles, Shane Skabrowski's, and Dave Moss.
Yeah, I like all those. So be sharing the pictures. I'll be putting a timestamp. So if you're watching the video, you can kind of check out the paint schemes that we're talking about, and that way you can kind of see them for yourself. And hopefully you'll be able to see them at the track sooner rather than later. So we kind of discussed like some of the rumors we've heard, and obviously we've talked about the upcoming events coming up for this week. And so, like I said, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be kind of seeing who's all out there at the racetracks and kind of making some predictions for like national champions in Wasota, maybe some of the top IMCA drivers over in our neck of the woods. And so be sure to subscribe to the podcast and kind of stay tabbed on what we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks. I don't know if we're going to be coming back with rankings at some point, but it would be really interesting year to bring that back.
Well,
especially with all the changes. It'd be very, very interesting to see what happens.
Yes.
I'm open to ideas. We look, we
Are
gotta.
we gonna upset the East and the West again? Because
Oh
I
my
think
God,
our
they would be-
rankings were pretty spot on for a couple of years ago, and people are still upset about that. So
Oh, we got people talking.
that was the whole point of it.
And we tried to be as unbiased as we could.
There was a
Yep.
whole ranking system and like, well, whatever.
I'm not opposed to the idea, but let's get through the opening weekend, and then we can just do power rankings of who's top.
He only
Right.
considers it now because he's done with his masters and he's got more free time this summer.
Maybe it'd be something to do like once a month rather than a week by week basis, because week by week was grueling.
How about
Wouldn't that be harder to like input like 4 or 5 weeks of information?
I feel like at that point we just go with what we see, or kind of how we view the results.
Probably be
I
with
guess.
our gut.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
How
probably
about-
the fairest way to do it.
what if we did IMCA mods and Wasota mods as one class, IMCA sport mods and B mods as the next class? Just group them: hobby stocks with hobby stocks, stock cars and street stocks.
You know, it'd be interesting because the growing talk is now to have like these races where we kind of combine some of these classes into one. It'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see how we would view that. It's
Oh,
a
man.
wacky idea.
You would hear so much screaming. You're only doing it because you favor IMCA. And then on the other side, you hate Wasota. Why are you hating Wasota?
You're not going to please everyone. I've learned that you're not going to please everyone when you do kind of ranking stuff like that. So,
But
Oh,
it
yeah.
causes great discussion, and that was some of my favorite things to read on. Was it a Wednesday morning? Like, oh, just great.
yeah,
The best was the one where we posted it, and literally 30, like not even a minute after it got posted, someone wrote, "Wrong! You are wrong. This is not even close to being right. Stupid." I'm like, okay,
they're quick readers.
yep. Glad we just took our finger and went and found our one friend and instantly was not happy with it.
Yeah, so we'll see what we come up with if we do rankings at all this year. But I think it'd be fun to kind of talk about a little bit throughout the season. If you're fantasy players at all for racing, that's going to be starting soon. I'm going to be trying to hold my title of champion at Dakota Speedway and Jamestown Speedway in particular, because Becca fell short on that, unfortunately, in both cases. And so our fantasy names are listed below each of us. And so if you see any of us on the leaderboard, you know who you're dealing with. And so beware, because we've done our homework, and hopefully we know who we're picking, and hopefully they don't let us down by starting the heat but not starting the feature, because that's very frustrating.
Yes, when Mason picks you and I do not, if your car is not good enough to be in the top 5 and Mason's picked you, just stay on the trailer. It's safer that way.
Well, you just
Even
if
if
Mason
you're-
shows up to your track, you just know you're not going to race. So
I was gonna say it's probably gonna rain out, so just
And-
saying.
I just want to point out that the three of us outside of Mason, we gave Mason and the little Pomeranian and Twitchy a head start this year in Wasota. We were busy with important things, and they were still trying to chase after the Wasota national points by getting that free Casper race and the Sheridan race. It's just, we want you guys to have a head start, because at least John and I are going to be mastering our picks and be closing that gap rather quickly. So enjoy your lead now, and the boots are coming.
Yeah, the only reason that both John and Jessup are mastering their picks is because Jessup's asking John for advice every single night at the racetrack on who to pick.
this is so true.
Yeah, who is this? Who should I pick here? And a lot of times, well, Jessup doesn't know this, but several times I would give him the opposite driver of who he should have picked. So it was just wonderful.
So true. I loved it.
Because I can't believe you're helping him. And I looked at Beck and I was like, I'm not. I'm giving him the driver that he shouldn't have picked.
See?
Whatever.
I just have
It's
to
strategy.
mention. I just have to mention how the east side of North Dakota is flooding right now. It's because Mason lives on the east side of North Dakota,
Ooh.
and here in
Becca
western
makes
North
a
Dakota,
really, really good point there.
tracks are testing, tuning, and ready to go racing. So
You know, there was a point where the East used to start earlier than the West.
so true.
And
And
then
then
Mason
Mason moved
out
there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No comment on that. Yes, but
But I
it's,
feel like back in the day with Novak, they were very hit or miss on when they would actually be able to get their opener in, and it's probably because Mason was up there. So that would make more sense now. They're very much more reliable these days on getting their opener in than when probably like Fargo or even Ada. Actually, this could be the case of why they didn't release their schedules, because they weren't sure with Mason being over there when the water would physically dry up and when they could physically start racing. So
there we go. Yeah, nice to get the site updated. The last thing
Hey.
I want to mention before we close out, and I guess we'll display the white flag here, is we put out a debate, a set of pictures from our paint schemes that we revealed over the last couple of episodes. So far, yours truly is leading that with, I believe it's 10
Everyone knows
likes.
you and loves you, and you're the popular pick.
Yeah.
Or I just have
there's
a really
hey,
cool looking paint scheme.
No, John, there's a reason why Mason's going to all these shops and everything. It's really sad, Mason, that you're begging and pleading
he's
for
begging
begging for votes. You're better than this, Mason. You really are.
basically
And-
going around and soliciting votes.
Hey, you can't deny it. My paint scheme was cool.
No, people
No,
are
it
like,
wasn't.
Mason
didn't vote
designed
for it.
that. Like, I
You
don't
voted for
Mason,
yourself.
you-
I didn't even vote
for
for
it.
anyone's. I wanted to
Yours-
show my unbiasedness. Unlike John, I know he voted for a couple of his own.
So did Becca.
Yes,
We
but
just
Becca
vote
did
on
get a
our
vote
own?
on the all blue scheme.
Same,
She got
just
one
one.
vote.
Wait, we can vote for our own?
Well,
Apparently,
show
but it's going
some
to even
love.
out if all of us vote on our own.
Wow. I guess I'm the only honest one out here.
I haven't voted on it my own.
No, you've been slumming at all the
you've been
race
soliciting
shops.
votes.
That's no. Hey, every driver that gets through the pit shack next week, you vote for me or you don't get to draw.
I
Okay.
just want to point out, you guys all made fun of my all blue Jeff Gordon paint scheme, but had that car actually shown up to the Dakota Speedway car show, could have been mall show winner in the stock car division. Could have
We
been.
don't
There was
have a stock
50-50
car division. We have a street stock division.
We had a stock car division this year, just because. Yeah,
What
Sure.
happened with the rest of them?
there were no street stocks there, so my
Yeah.
car would have been 50-50 chance for winning stock car.
And just like that, her car would have still lost. So
I mean,
the,
my car looks pretty ballin', so
Sure.
the only thing balling about
Sure.
is if you could take that picture and crumple it up into a ball and throw it in the trash.
and
No.
throw it away. That was
No.
definitely the
No.
right thing. Yep.
I was inspired by one of Jeff
Blue.
Gordon's Pepsi.
She
Blue
was
Pepsi,
inspired by the
yeah.
song Blue.
Blue. Yep. Blue.
Will you sing
like
it
the
so it gets
jazz
stuck in
blues.
Mason's head?
He's already
Yeah,
got
well-
5 songs stuck in my head. But shout out to
Mason's-
Joanne, who gave Becca's all blue car a vote. So
Okay,
Well,
I'm gonna
she
need to
felt
have
bad
a
for him.
conversation with Joanne when we go over to Jamestown, because she just needs better taste.
yes, so the last thing we want to talk about, once again, sorry, I almost forgot to mention this, but Larry McFall announced that he's going to be stepping away from full-time announcing, which for me especially is kind of tough to hear because I grew up listening to him every single week at the Nodak Speedway. So it sounds like he's going to be stepping away from full-time announcing at Nodak and also in Williston, where he announced the last several years. And so it sounds like he's going to be announcing periodically at different points throughout the year, possibly in Grand Forks, maybe joining Corey Litton in Fargo. But just want to send our best wishes to Larry on this transition out of the booth. I'm sure we'll be seeing him at the racetrack quite a bit still, but it's going to be different not hearing him on the mic on a weekly basis, especially up at Nodak. And so shout out to Larry for all the years of service you've done, entertaining the crowds at the various tracks, even on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour for several years. And really looking forward to seeing him more as a fan at the racetrack then too. And Jess, I put out a nice article on Dakota Dirt earlier today, kind of talking about Larry and his history in racing. So I invite you all to check that out if you haven't already. So I think with that, that'll do it for episode 10 of the Track Packers podcast. Be sure, as always, to like and follow the Track Packers podcast Facebook page as we post the videos on there and also on my Masonry Racing Videos YouTube page. If you're a podcast listener, be sure to follow on Spotify, Google, and Apple. Be sure to check out Hitch Harness, our presenting sponsor on Facebook, and check out their website, hitchharness.com. We're ready for the racing season to kick off, and we hope to see you all out there packing the track.